This year, I decided I'm gonna go the full year without using any dating apps. However, I still want to meet people. So tonight, it's Friday, I'm gonna go out by myself. Okay, this is what I'm gonna wear. Just passing a beer garden that was full of people with their friends. It's okay, this will be fun. Okay, that did not go well and was a little embarrassing. I'm gonna see if I can find another place to go though. Not going as planned. I don't know what I thought. I genuinely thought that I was gonna meet people. It was just that the jazz bar was too crowded. There wasn't even anywhere to sit. I'm gonna go again. I'm gonna keep trying. But that was really hard.
Now this video has been taken out of context by several blue pill channels that have been pretty prolific, pushing their agenda within the manosphere aimed mostly at an audience of people whom they often refer to as simps.
A man that puts himself in a subservient or submissive position under a woman in hopes of winning them over without the female bringing anything to the table.
To help them stop being simps and be real men. But hey, in their eyes, anybody who has any kind of compassion, morals and manners and is not straight up a narcissistic psychopath is a simp. This girl, the author of this video, is actually doing a pretty good job and running a very interesting experiment on her account. So if that is something that you like to explore more, as well as to check the full context of this video rather than taking it for the face value that some of these manosphere channels would wish you to, check her out and give her a sub. I'll put her details into the description below. That being said, let's explore the subject of love, dating, social media and dating apps and see what the analytical and statistical data tell us about this first. So let's start with something simple. We all know that social media has become a fact of life for a vast majority of the population, which accounts for about 81% of the US population, for instance. And while the networking tech can be beneficial for a number of reasons, such as keeping long-distance relationships alive, at least to some degree, there are also quite a few negatives that go along with the constant scrolling through the feeds and obsessing over the ever-growing need for attention and validation online. An average American, for instance, checks their phone 40 to 80 times a day, with young people being at the top of this. But we all know that social media is addictive. Just like any other addiction, social media use has repeatedly shown similar psychological and behavioral characteristics, which often include neglect of personal life, mental preoccupation, a level of escapism, mood and tolerance modification, as well as a level of concealment of these addictive behaviors. I mean, I'm pretty sure that all of you have already heard of the so-called Facebook envy, which is often characterized by a feeling of jealousy and dissatisfaction with your own life as a direct result of often misconstrued and enhanced presentation of reality by influencers, but also people in general. I mean, portraying yourself and your life in the best light has been something that people had always done. The difference is that now you can get it in large quantities and all the time. On the flip side, taking a break from social media has often increased satisfaction with one's life. That has been proven on many occasions. The thing that I find most interesting though is the fact that social media often results in an even greater feeling of social isolation. Social platforms are supposed to bring people together, and yet they are continuously linked with a higher incidence of social isolation amongst its users. A study conducted by the American Journal of Preventative Medicine found that people who spent more time on their social media platforms reported greater perceived social isolation than those that used social media less. And that is not very surprising, is it? 81% of all Americans check their phones even while dining out or during a date. And I don't mean just to check their messages or something innocent, something quick. I'm talking about checking for likes, comments, and DMs from other people whom, for instance, when it comes to dating, essentially represent a conflict of interest and a direct competition to the person that you are out with. Then we obviously have the fact that a lot of people enhance their life dissatisfaction and lower self-esteem and confidence with the never-ending need to compare themselves to others, and we have a bag of mental health issues and disorders on our hands, and not just the ones that affect us but also others. Take, for instance, cyberbullying, the need of people to take care of their own issues, their own personal issues on others. According to DoSomething.org, 43% of all kids reported being victims of cyberbullying at some point, and as many as 70% of kids report being bullied on regular basis. And don't even get me started on the effects all of this has on our sleep and diet. This is clearly evident by the fact that 58% of Americans say social media negatively affects their mental health, while 64% experience anxiety from social media use. Many users, actually about 56%, also experience depression, dissatisfaction with life, fear of missing out, and body image issues as a result of these apps. But social media apps are not to be solely to blame. After all, it's just software, a tool that can have some amazing impact on our social life and interactions if used properly. The problem is that this is often used in an obscured way to conceive other agendas that are more often than not a monetary tool, a money-making machine of sorts, which essentially gave rise to a new feature in advertising landscape these days, a social influencer. 71% of users who experience negative mental health impacts from social media blame misinformation and disinformation. Obviously, a lack of public awareness and education on what is real and what is not is needed, but that is something that will eventually come as a necessity. Unlike many people out there, I don't want to focus just on the negatives or demonize these apps and communities. As I said in the beginning, these are all just tools and they're to be approached and perceived as such. I mean, even something as simple as water can be used as poison if used inappropriately or in large quantities. Anything that is overused or abused can end up being a poison. And yes, all of these apps have to have ads to sustain them and to make them profitable in order to pay for R&D and to appease the shareholders and investors who help to kickstart all of these projects and ventures. That's how business works. It's something inevitable. Instead of talking about social media apps, let's move on to something that is even more relevant to this channel: relationships and dating. Let's talk about dating apps. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned that there are plenty of channels that spread out misinformation about women, men, dating, and relationships just to feed the algorithm, for instance, on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. One of these is also Weight Waffles, which up until recently has kept his anonymity, but to celebrate surpassing the 100k subs milestone, he finally revealed his identity and his dating history, which, to be honest, does not cast the best light on his advice, ideas, or theories. I mean, the guy has dated 5 girls, including his current girlfriend, and I would not be surprised if he was still studying. Needless to say, not the best credentials for somebody who wants to preach on relationship dynamics. It's kind of like listening to somebody offering relationship advice without the ability to score or maintain a successful relationship themselves, or advice on marriage without having been married themselves. And although Weight Waffles is only one of these sort of channels, we'll use his Tinder experiment video as an example. I'm going to link his full video into the description below, so check it out for yourself. Now, as far as the experiment goes, the idea is good and we may actually test this ourselves in the future, but the execution and the conclusions are rather poor.
Over the course of 4 months, he swiped a grand total of 16,000 times. Of these 16,000, he swiped right or liked a little under 8,000. Just 290 of them matched. So the other 7,000 or whatever didn't. This is an abysmally low 3.7% match rate. And if we average this figure out over the entire duration of the experiment, we find he's grappling with just 2.5 matches per day. Of the 290 women he matched with, 99 of them had at least one message being sent or received. 87 of which he made the first move, while the remaining 12 had the woman opening on him. Either way, this shows 191 of his matches served absolutely no purpose besides collecting dust, as nothing got initiated. Right off the bat, 31, that's almost a third, either left him on read or never even opened his initial message, leaving just 68 conversations for him to work with. Then, of these 68, a further 40 women ghosted him after a short message exchange. Our subject also gave up on 17 conversations himself, which leads him being left with just 11 phone numbers where he can carry on texting over WhatsApp or iMessage. After all of this effort, after 4 months of painstakingly swiping over 100 times a day, every day, our guy was rewarded with just 3 dates. So as for the other 8 girls, they either gave up on texting, declined his date offer, or simply never turned up. And just to be clear, there is no silver lining to this man's efforts. None of his 3 dates materialised into anything long term. So besides some dating experiences and a reminder of the futility of online dating as a man, we can safely say that this whole ordeal had been a complete waste of time.
The problem is that people seem to misunderstand the concept of dating apps. These services have never been set up to replace one-on-one human interactions. They never intended to reduce dating and getting to know people purely based on looks, turning dating into some kind of a swiping game where you swipe left or right. Just like Instagram was never meant to serve as a way to advertise your perfect life and retouched photos for some kind of shallow validation instead of actually doing all of those cool things for real. Facebook was never meant to replace your ability and need to maintain interactions and contact with your friends and family in real life either. Dating apps were meant to serve as a simple tool, an addition to already existent and pre-existing dating life. Now, when I was younger, let's say the age of the guy from Wheat Waffles channel, meeting girls was all about putting yourselves forward, engaging in activities and opportunities that ensure the presence of women, whether it was things like going to events, concerts, student meetups, going rollerblading, or cycling in places that were frequented by girls, or going clubbing. Everything was about exposure and the willingness to seek out these sort of opportunities. If I was to go by his conclusion, the one that he presented at the end of his video, then that would be wrong. He says that we should all give up dating apps, but that is not something that I would recommend. It's a supplementation to your already pre-existing dating life. So use it. I mean, back in the day when I was at the uni, we used to go out clubbing, and let's say it was a small club and it had 300 people. Let's split it right through the middle and you have 150 girls, 150 boys. Now those 150 girls would, let's say, present 150 swipes. Obviously, that is the capacity of the club, but that doesn't mean that even though I scan through the club and have maybe subconsciously seen every single girl, doesn't mean that every single girl captured my attention. That is similar to swiping on Tinder. Some you like, some you don't like, but that does not mean that every single girl is going to like you back. And even if every single one did, then that is just the first hurdle. That is just the first step, which is kind of like approaching girls at a bar. Then it's up to your skill to know how to talk to a girl, how to present yourself, how to interact and engage her. And even that, once you surpass that hurdle, then you have to engage her enough to get the number and continue that onto the second date, third date, or whatever, unless you're looking for a one-night stand. That is similar with these apps. In his experiment, we see the guy who contacted a number of girls, and then they showed the disappointing result. Much less girls actually getting back to him, but they never actually present evidence. They never actually present the type of messages. Other experiments have proven that most of the guys these days, all they write is simple single word sentences like, hey, hi, how are you doing? Just boring stuff. Just like in real life, Tinder and other applications also has to be about your skill. It has to be about your ability to present yourself. Back in the day, before the dating apps, we had text messages. If we ever wrote anything as simple and plain as hey, then nobody would be surprised if we didn't have any feedback. So people obviously developed some kind of skill and ability to communicate, to engage somebody through words. I mean, it's no different than engaging somebody at the bar. If you just approach a girl at the bar and you just go, hey, and then you wait for a response, what is gonna happen? Probably nothing. She's going to turn away and walk off and go and meet somebody else. The same goes for Tinder. You can't be discouraged by the fact that girls don't respond if your initial engagement, if your initial messages are rubbish. It's all about honing these skills. Just like in personal contact, the same goes for written contact. But the bottom line is that we can't blame dating apps. Even though the contact may be in the hands of the girls, that is no different than in real life. In real life, you approach girls, but girls essentially decide who they go out with. Everything is up to you. If you engage her enough, then I have no doubt that she will choose you. But the choice is still hers, even in real life. And that has always been the case. Nothing has changed. If anything, everybody has a lot more opportunities. I mean, you can literally use live interactions and one-on-one interactions, and then whenever you have free time, whether you're eating or sitting on a toilet, you can keep on swiping, and you are doing stuff that you could have never done in the past. I mean, if you wanted some kind of interactions or you wanted to see more girls, you actually had to go out. You had to go out in the streets or clubs or events or whatever. These days, you can supplement all of that with dating apps. So for anyone who wants to complain about dating apps and how rubbish it is and how many responses and likes girls get versus how many responses guys get, come on, that is just reality. That is the game. The guys have always been in it for the chase, for the game. It was never supposed to be simple. If anything, it is much simpler now. I mean, yes, the competition may be much higher, but if you consider that you still have all of these live interactions and live opportunities, which you can supplement with dating apps, then overall, your ability to actually find the right person, find the right match, somebody to partner with, you have much greater chances than you ever did. So buck up, put your things together, and just get on with life. Stop complaining. Life is amazing. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.